Hello and welcome to my sewing room on this lovely rainy Saturday. You know me, I'm Derek. So today my plan is on my mannequin here, I'm going to be draping a new lighter weight semi-winter semi-spring coat. This is the drawing that I kind of came up with. I've been thinking about this jacket for a long time and I've got some fun wool in purple and some nice Halloween spooky themed fabrics to go inside of it. So coming over here to the sewing table, we've got our fabrics for the project laid out. I have this wonderful purple wool. I've got about 3.5 yards of it here from Pendleton Woolen Mills, purchased in Portland, Oregon. That's going to be the nice outside for the jacket and keep us warm. As we can see, the jacket pattern, it's going to be a mid-thigh, so just above like knee area trench, possibly button up, possibly zip. That part has not been fully decided yet. Partially Victorian style puff top sleeve, reminiscent of a jacket that I had when I was fresh out of high school from Hot Topic. Possibly a ring neck collar, or since I live in Washington State, a hood, since hoods are very necessary for all jackets in this area. For lining, I have this lovely print that is Halloween witchy theme, crows, cauldrons, snakes, and spellbooks, purchased at Pacific Fabrics in Seattle. We also have a white background pattern of the same material, possibly for pockets to match, or a couple other options are this cute little black spell potion fabric, or a purple print, very witchy vibe fabric that also matches. So what we're going to do is cut our mock-up fabric. We've got a nice heavy cotton muslin here. Let's get chunks of this, and we are going to start draping on the mannequin, which back in 2019 was custom fit to my body. Finished in 2020 during the COVID era, and probably is now too small for me, but it is close enough that it will work. Yeah. So we will take our lovely mock-up fabric, which is quite big at the time, but cut it down into more reasonable sizes for making the coat. And my favorite sound in the whole universe, tearing fabric. It is lovely. I love it when you go to a fabric store and they actually know on certain fabrics to tear it. So now I have a piece that is much more of a manageable size. And here you see I have pinned my drawing on, so we can kind of go with that. And thankfully, tearing tears along a single thread of the fabric, so you get a mostly straight line. Except, you know, in spots where you clip it. Depending, we're going to probably need to do a little overlap on center front, so we don't want it to match center completely. And we drape up over the shoulder. Should have washed and ironed this fabric first, but you know, choices. Choices, choices, choices. Pin down. Make it go down the center front. The snip. And a tear. And we're going to get a lot of strings, but it is what it is. Get those cleaned up, thrown on the nicely fresh vacuum floor, so then I have more work to do tomorrow. Yay! Okay, so we have a basic block size here. Pinned down, shoulder. Now, and we kind of just start marking on the neckline here. Don't tip over. Why am I doing this left-handed? Okay. So we're going to kind of mark up along the neckline. So I don't like things sitting right tight on my neck. We're going to go up into the shoulder here, kind of mark down where I want the top of the shoulder seam to sit. Down here, start to mark down the top of the shoulder at the arm's eye. And now, kind of start cutting away at the excess so we can kind of make our pattern. And I personally never like to cut right on the lines that I draw, because I like to do that after I have it flat, so then in case there's any adjustments, but I cut enough away, leaving seam allowance basically that we can work with. That way then I don't end up with something that is not going to fit once it is sewn or put onto a paper pattern. And of course, I like to keep all of my scraps because they're useful, and if I don't use them down the road, I typically donate them to someone who can use them. Currently, I have a 20-gallon tote of fabric scraps that I'm going to be donating to someone that I've already been in contact with. And before I cut away too much at the arm's eye here, I want to get in and kind of smooth down around the rib cage, so then I can focus on the angle that this jacket is going to take. I probably want to make the chest measurement 4 inches larger. That way I can have plenty of room for something to fit under in the jacket, and it won't be like cinching you tight as you breathe. Because this sits at about a 44 chest, so I kind of want to make it a 48. Shit, I have gotten fat. God damn. Hot Lucy, someone call Weight Watchers for me. So that means, in order to do this, I want to, instead of going from the sideline, I want to add 2 inches more to the back. So what I'm eventually going to have to do probably is pad out my dress form further so that things fit me right. And typically I like a tighter arm's eye than most coat makers wear. That way I have a better range of motion, because the lower your arm's eye where you're attached, the less up you can move your arm. That way we can in there. And we will try this mock-up on once it's all pinned and stitched, just to make sure that our measurements are right, since it's not quite the size of me anymore. Because it's been 6 years. So I'd like to do kind of a flare to the jacket. So I'm thinking on the side, we will start to come down to approximately the waist, and then flare out at 10 to 15 degrees. An acute angle, if you know math. That way then, it'll give a bit of base. And then we have to round out the bottom to make it sit even. Because, you know, circles and geometry and stuff. So that is roughly the front part. And then, you know, we like pockets, so we'll probably have to do like a welt pocket right in here. So we'll mark that on there. Want it big enough to put your hand in, because everyone needs pockets. And now we get to move on to the back. So when I made this, I made a zipper built in so I could take off my measurements and pad it out to whoever else needed, because I bought essentially what was close enough in the shoulders and chest and then padded out instead of having to shave off. I'm going to start with always go larger and then mark down. Also, a nice thing about putting the zipper in this makes it so I have a nice center back here, so then I can get a nice straight line when I'm draping. We'll start out by marking center back to about the waist. And we will come around and start doing where we want the collar to sit. Since I'm a little bigger now, I'm going to be leaving a bit of room instead of tightening that all in. So then we can kind of get out the right area. And as we start cutting down, we can pin it down. And then we kind of, from the waist, want to flare out at that 15-degree angle. Cutting into the side here. Cut out the arm's eye. I kind of like pointy hoods that are really big. Also, pockets need to address our pocket size. Typically, I like to do a pocket that is large enough that when you put your hand in it, you have plenty of room. So, you'll make a pocket bag with a slightly rounded corner in the front, a little more squared bottom and back. That will attach into the side seam with a marked opening match. Tidy up our scraps, throw them in the bin, the saving bin. So now we have a pocket that will fit right well in there. So pocket can go in there. And you know, if any of this doesn't quite work out, that's fine. It's fine. It's sewing. That's why we do the mock-up and drape it to design it before we get cutting into our purple fabric. That way, we have a plan for what we're doing. So I'm just kind of cutting the hood here, and then I'm going to kind of see how that sits. Oh yeah, it would be a hood big enough to hide all my hair, maybe with a hat. Hood goes with pocket. So there we have it, our attempted drape. Now the sleeve, that's the fun part, because I already have nice patterns for sleeves that I like, that are big enough that, you know, they'll fit over like a lightweight sweatshirt. But if not, we can always attempt. So I want it to be above shoulder length to the end of my fingers. That way I've got enough room. Thankfully, when I was 13 and my mom told me how to do sleeves, it clicked really well, and I've never really had issues other than making the sleeve hole a little too tight sometimes. Using extra, we will gather and make the puffy top. So here, we now have a sleeve shape. Get the general shape, pin it down. So to kind of make the top puffy, what you do is you have to gather it in. Fold the cheese, David, just fold it in. What do you mean, fold the cheese? I don't know how I can be any more clear. Just fold it in. You know, that kind of stuff. Pinning in is going to create more puff top sleeve with the more volume there. If we just gather the top and then set the bottom. Then we'll probably have to narrow out the arm to give enough of a puff. But also only want it to be puffed at the top and not all the way around. So it's more of a 1890s style and not like an 1860s style. So if you've ever seen Return to Oz with Veruca Balk, had a traumatic childhood because lovely Disney and their scary movies that we love. The way that these sleeves were done on the costume of the madam that ran the insane asylum, who turned out to be Mombi, are kind of what I'm going for here. If I can get hold of this, that, you know, you get a full range of motion. So, alrighty, there we go. There's our plan for now. And that's it. I'm going to start sketching this out onto paper, start making a mock-up. We'll be back later.